Our next speaker is Rob Hassett. Rob has recently joined the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries in Queensland as part of the REEF team. He's been chasing the perfect combination of methods to objectively measure land condition for more than a decade. So has he achieved that? Let's find out.
Hello, and thank you to Desert Channels and the Australian Rangelands Society for the opportunity to present today. My name is Robert Hassett from the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, Brisbane. Today I'm presenting the Land Condition Assessment Tool as a method for documenting land resources and condition. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which this event is taking place and the country throughout Australia. I recognise your continuing connection to land, waters and culture, and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge the Australian Department of Agriculture, Water and the Environment for funding the development and implementation of the Lcat. Also the Queensland Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, in particular the Management Practice Adoption Team led by Kev McCosker, Emily Brooks, Paul Humphreys and Adam Northey, and from Agriscience Queensland, Terry Butel and Patrick Graz. Lastly, I'd like to thank the more than 200 Lcat users across the state. Today I'll be providing a short overview followed by a demonstration of the tool and then back to a couple of scenarios. So land condition. Most will be familiar with the concept of land condition, however it's something that's not strictly defined. In a practical sense, the definition may vary depending on the purpose, focus or outcome sought from an assessment. What all definitions and their methods share are accepted land condition indicators and values. They recognise that ecosystem structure and processes such as water and nutrient cycling should be maintained, and that well-maintained and high biodiversity has significant capital value resulting from the ecosystem services they provide. Agricultural products, benefits such as water quality, and cultural values including connection, spiritual and educational experience. We know that poor land condition has direct and indirect impacts, not only locally, but through to markets and economies. We also know that maintaining good condition is easier than overcoming decline condition. The Lcat determines land condition by evaluating a wide range of accepted long-term indicators of condition. It considers varying definitions and it produces results calibrated to various purposes. Most importantly, it provides a mechanism to document your land resource inventory, your land resource capital. Our Management Practice Adoption Team, part of the Paddock to Reef Integrated Monitoring, Modelling and Reporting Program, or P2R, developed the Lcat to fill identified gaps such as low confidence in reported results and no data to analyse or improve remote sensing and model products. Accurate land condition data is also critical to a range of other issues. All are underpinned by the need to support strong rural communities through economic development. The design objective of the Lcat was simple. Keep it simple. Make it less onerous than scientific quantitative methods, but more comprehensive than simpler methods. Why? To increase the capture of quality data to fill gaps in policy, science and research. The Lcat is a science-based method. It's not a scientific quantitative method, and like all, there are caveats and limitations. The framework draws on a wide range of indicators, values, metrics, principles, and concepts adapted from many methods. In 2007, I developed simple pictograms to visually represent scientific values, such as pasture plant density. These were popular and easy to use, so in 2010, I expanded the set to include a wide range of land condition indicators. The pictograms designed for the Lcat include both scientific values and simple concepts. Using pictograms has made assessments quicker and more accessible to a large range of users. Under the bonnet, the framework is reasonably complex, having thousands of indicators, values, weightings, and formulas. However, the user interface is simple and intuitive to use, and land condition indicators are arranged in functional groups. Both standard and advanced versions are calibrated to determine the same results. The advanced version is simply more data-rich and suited to benchmarking or more detailed monitoring. The weighting approach allows the same set of indicators and values to be calibrated to different results. Each indicator may be pulling in different directions, However, weightings determine those which have the most significant impact on land condition. 15 results are generated on completion of an assessment. Some indicators are used in the determination of one or more condition results, whilst others may be used for benchmarking or contextual purposes. All data and results can be accessed for analysis and use. The Lcat was made available for use in March 2020. In the first 12 months, despite COVID-19 impacts, I was able to provide a mix of face-to-face and online training. Over 200 users collected 1,465 land condition sites in the first 12 months to March 2021. An impressive effort and very valuable data set. Now, for the moment, I'd like to leave the presentation and demonstrate the Survey 123 Lcat Field App. This is the Microsoft version of the survey. There's user instructions and a range of documents that can be downloaded from within the survey, and a user very simply pages through the actual survey. In this case, we'll be using the standard assessment, and we're going to be assessing this lovely Mitchell grass out near Boulia. Page number 1 is the site information. There's quite a lot of information that can be recorded there, including land type. So for each of these fields, we can either type in what we know the answer is, or we can start to, or we can scroll through a list. So in this case, we're in open downs around Longreach in the Mitchell Grass Downs region. We can also record our date, time and coordinate from the device, and also capture up to 5 photographs. Hopefully this is a sign of a promising sign of the future season ahead. So in this particular scenario, we can scroll through our 585 pasture species that are in the list. Each of those pasture species are categorized and weighted. And if we don't know the species, we can put in these generic categories. In this case, we know that it's a Strebler, if I can spell correctly. So we can put in the species and we just move through the assessment, recording what the pictogram is that most closely reflects what is seen on the ground. In this case, we could put in a generic, a second species. We'll use the generic one. And again, we can then come back and put in a particular species. So we can record up to 3 dominant species in this particular version. And it's just a case of moving through the assessment. And it literally is, once you're familiar with the assessment framework, it literally is a matter of just moving through and selecting the pictograms that are appropriate. Pest, plants and animals. These use the Biosecurity Queensland pest, plants and animals. Here again, we can start to type in a particular species, or in this case, we'll simply be putting none observed. Same for pest animals. The standard version is intended to be quick and easy to use, doesn't require a lot of species identification or things like that. We're just capturing the most important information. So the total understory and total overstory density, very straightforward in this case, none observed. That's very natural in this land type, obviously. Our distance from watercourse, if we select either of these two, we move on to the next question. If we select either of these, we open up more questions related to the management of watercourses, and we'll look at that in a scenario shortly. We can also capture information to help us understand the impacts of management practices in watercourses. But for the moment, in this case, we're going to say we're distant from a watercourse. We can also capture our total grazing pressure, and each time we select a particular animal, we can put in whatever the impact is, but in this case, we're going to select nothing. And again, site impacts, in this case, nothing, but we can record whatever impacts may be present. And then we generate our in-field results. And this gets generated on the device, whether you're online or offline, it doesn't matter, the results are immediate. So here's our results. A condition, 1,500 to 3,000 kilos per hectare, and we've got very good results all the way through here. So I'm now going to move on to a very diverse site. This was a site up near Cooktown, and I want to move on to this site to show the advanced version when it opens. And this is simply a way of documenting a lot more information about the site. So in this case, all of we've still got the same site information. We can fill in our site information, put in our photographs, and here we can now add up to 5 dominant pasture species and their densities. So we can now document the second dominant pasture species and the density that it was on the day of the assessment, our third and its density, our fourth and our fifth. So we've got a lot more information just in the pasture component alone. We can then record a bit more information about utilisation, whether there's non-natives present. We can record ground cover components and their percentages. A lot more information about the soil surface, whether there's coarse fragments and their sizes, and soil classification if required. There's a lot of information about erosion processes. I'm not going to open up all of these, but if we open up something on gully erosion, it'll open up another 10 questions about gully erosion, what's going on, and even gives us the ability to record the location of the gully head. In this case here, there's no plants, pest plants observed, so we'll move through that, but I'll come back to it. And again, in our understory and overstory in this advanced version, we can record up to 3 dominant species and their densities, as well as the total density. In this case, I've just used generic genus results, but there are hundreds and hundreds of species throughout here as well. In this version also, we can record our total grazing pressure, but also our native animals, whether we see them or signs of them if they're present. And again, we can generate a result. So in this case, all very high results. Just go back to that pest plants and animals and change that for a moment. If we say that we've got a particular pest plant, we then open up a range of other indicators that we can record if we wish. What the particular pest plant feature was. So we can record up to 3 pest plants and the state of their management. So for now, I'm just going to go quickly back into the presentation and just very quickly show a couple of scenarios. In this scenario, very good condition. We've got buffel, black speargrass, forest blue, we've got off-stream water, and we've got fencing. So you can see our riparian indicator, or our riparian result, is that we're in pretty good shape. We don't have any water quality impacts or risks, and our riparian stability is pretty good. That could be higher if we had a bit more woody density on those stream banks. Similarly, good pasture condition, but a range of other issues being triggered. No riparian management, and you can see here now our indicative riparian zone stability is least intact. It's quite declined because animals are causing erosion, and obviously there's a high risk of water quality through sediment being produced from that kind of management practice. So the assessment can give us a lot more information, not just the results, but it can give us the data and potentially start looking at impacts and how to model those. The other important thing is particularly for practice change modelling and remote sensing and modelling, is what is the driver of sea condition? Is sea condition always the same? We know that it's not. but how do we find out what it is? So all of these particular sites are all in C condition, as can be seen up here. They all have particular drivers: dominant pasture species in the left, dominant pasture species and total overstory density. The next one, dominant pasture density and total understory density in this third photograph. And you can see the indicative landscape stability and function, that was my timer, is quite high all the way through these three particular sites. So that's a good sign, even though they're C condition in terms of the productivity focused ABCD grazing land condition framework. We can see that they're quite stable. In this example, though, we've got a gully running through. There's gullies and low cover and all kinds of hill slope erosion happening on this site. And very quickly, through our drivers of land condition, we can see that it's being triggered by dominant pasture density, total perennial pasture density, low ground cover, and soil erosion. And the indicative landscape stability and function is stable or unstable and poor. So we can use that information to further analyse practice change data that we receive and better understand what the impacts may be in terms of water quality or any other outcome that we seek. And lastly, if you'd like more information and access to the land condition assessment tool, please get in touch with myself or the Paddock to Reef team. We're more than happy to support as many people as we can in accessing the survey because of the value of the data, and we encourage anyone using it to, on behalf of landholders, to pass that data onto landholders, not just the results, but use the data, because that's the most important and valuable aspect of understanding your land resources and their condition. Thank you.